What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe as you tune into the channel and check out the content. And with that being said, man, I want to talk about something, man, that I just think is kind of funny. You had last week the OKC Thunder sent a memo to the league because they thought that the Utah Jazz was trying to tank so they could try not to win games so they could mess up the draft pick that they owe the OKC Thunder, right? And so now this week you have the OKC Thunder. Shea Gilgris is already out because he's injured. But the role players and the supporting cast around Shea, they're load managing them so they don't have to I guess they want everybody to be healthy at the same time when playoff time come. They don't want anybody else to get injured, so they load managing them. So I thought that was kind of funny for them to call one team out for tanking, and then here they come back the next week and they start load managing. So now the guy Scap on Scap Attack was talking about this, right? And I want to play some of the audio from his podcast, and then I want to come back and react to it.
Well, the Oklahoma City Thunder were in action last night, a potential matchup between maybe the two NBA finalists this year as they locked up with the number one seed in the Eastern Conference, the Detroit Pistons. Hell, in fact, going into last night, the Pistons had the number one record in the entire NBA at this point. And look, the Pistons did get the win. And on the surface, probably the narrative is going to be that it was because the Oklahoma City Thunder were without the services of reigning league MVP Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the guy who is still favored to be this year's league MVP. But look, it wasn't just Shai that was missing for last night's game. The Thunder have been without Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jalen Williams, and AJ Mitchell for several games now in a row. Of course, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, as I just mentioned, league MVP, and Jalen Williams last year was all NBA third team and all NBA defense second team. AJ Mitchell this year is fourth on their team in scoring behind only SGA, J-Dub, and Chet Holmgren.
All right, so now I want to say this though, right? Now, OKC did lose to Detroit, and without Shai and some of the supporting cast, right? To me, man, I just think that the OKC is tough. And if this team, Detroit, can only beat them by 3 points, and most of their players are not there. And I like Detroit, man. This if Detroit happen to see them like in the championship or something like that, it's gonna be tough. That's gonna be. I'm looking forward to that, like a full strength OKC against a full strength Detroit Piston team. That's gonna be a tough matchup. But man, you only can beat them by 3. That in a game that probably should have been a blowout. Hopefully, I'm hoping that this is not a I'm just hoping that maybe it was an off night for Detroit or something like that. But let me get back to what Scat is saying, and then add some more of my input to the situation.
Without 3 of their top 4 leading scorers for the last several games, the Oklahoma City Thunder decided they were just going to load manage the rest of their players basically last night going into that game against Detroit. As they sat Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein. Oh, whoops, I forgot to mention they've also been without Alex Caruso as well, the guy that leads their bench unit defensively. And in the last 2 games that they played, again, without Alex Caruso, AJ Mitchell, SGA, or Jalen Williams, they beat the Cleveland Cavaliers, who had won 12 of 13 games going into that matchup against Oklahoma City. And then they beat the Toronto Raptors just the night before this matchup with the Pistons. So the Oklahoma City Thunder decided, well, let's just go ahead and mail this game in all together, as they were still without those 4 players, the aforementioned. And then they sat the two best net rated defensive bigs in the NBA outside of Victor Wembanyama in both Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein. So if you're keeping up here, now the Oklahoma City Thunder sat their 4 leading scorers last night on the road against the team with the best record in the NBA, and really the only 2 bigs that they have, and 2 of the best defensive bigs in the league. In fact, the 2 best other than Wembanyama. And despite sitting all of that on the road against a team with the best record in the NBA, this was a 4-point game with 1 minute and 12 seconds to go in the fourth quarter.
Look, so that's what I'm saying, man. That's why this Western Conference, like Scap said, their 4 best players didn't even play for OKC. And they only lost, they lost the game, I think, by 3 or 4. That Western Conference, man, it's going to be tough. If Detroit is fortunate enough to get out of the East, which I think they're going to get out of the East, because I think that New York is, I just think New York is falling apart. I think Boston won't have enough to get past Detroit. Cleveland, I don't see them as a legitimate threat. So, yeah, man, I just think that whoever they see, Detroit see in the West, it's just going to be tough for them. It really is going to be a tough situation for whoever they go up against. I think their defense, Detroit's defense, is what's going to be able to make whoever they draw out of the West a tough series, but it's going to be tough.
This is how elite the Oklahoma City Thunder are. Yet there is this pervasive and disgusting narrative percolating around the interwebs that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is more valuable than Nikola Jokic, that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has less to work with than Nikola Jokic. This, of course, based on nothing more than win-loss record with and without, as the Denver Nuggets went 10-6 this year in the 16-game span in the month of January without Nikola Jokic, while the Oklahoma City Thunder at this point are just 7-4 right now with SGA. Of course, I say just because that's still a good record, 7-4. But this is just such a lazy way to look at things. The win-loss record with and without. How about we examine who these teams are playing with and without? That is the real conversation that needs to be had here. And luckily for all of you lazy and ignorant basketball fans out there who take to social media with like 100 characters and just slop up, the Denver Nuggets are 10-6 without Nikola Jokic, I am the one that's here to check you guys. I'm the one that's here to provide a little detail into this, to analyze it and really break it down. So in those 16 games
look, all right. So you know what? I know like Scap always want to give Jokic his flowers and stuff like that, right? But I think Jokic is really good. I do think that the Joker though has less talent around him than Shai got around him, and I agree with Scat about that. But that's not going to matter. Like once you get in the playoffs and you got to go up against those guys, you're gonna have to stop them. So how much success, so I don't know if he's trying to set the groundwork and say, well, the Joker had less to work with. It don't, maybe that's true, maybe that's not true. But the thing is, you still got to go through OKC. So make sure, the Joker and his guys got to make sure they ready when they go to OKC, or they got to make sure they ready when they go up against the, the Spurs or Houston. You got some really good teams. And so it kind of sounds like he laying the groundwork to make excuses for the Joker. Like if the Joker don't make it, everybody's, I don't think that the Denver roster is as talented as OKC roster. I think though when Denver is healthy, I think they just as talented as the Houston Rockets. I don't think. Then on top of that, like how do I compare the Denver roster to the Spurs? Now the Spurs are a young team, so I would give Denver the edge, even though they got Wembanyama and they got some good pieces around. I still would give the edge to Denver in that situation because of the Joker and the experience. You got Murray, you got Gordon, who these guys was there when the Joker and them they got those rings. So it's gonna be tough coming out the West, man. It's just gonna be tough. Yeah, there's a lot of talent around Shea and all those guys, but Shea ain't no guarantee that Shea will be able to get past Wembanyama. Like the Spurs have really had their number, right? So it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough. So, but yeah, Scap is just trying to lay that groundwork just in case Denver falls short, and he's trying to give them a built-in excuse. But if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. So that's my take on it. Make sure to like and subscribe. Also, don't forget to leave a comment. And with that being said, man, I'm gonna check y'all out in the next video.